Imagine if one of the most extravagant theories involving Ferrari in the Hungarian Grand Prix ended up being refuted by Michael Schumacher's brother? Well, that's exactly what happened when Ralf Schumacher decided to break his silence and directly challenge speculation that had been simmering behind the scenes in the top tier of motorsport. The question remains, did Ferrari try to escape a possible disqualification using a dubious technical strategy? Or are we witnessing yet another conspiracy theory that has taken on a life of its own? Let's start from the beginning. The 2025 Hungarian Grand Prix was shaping up to be another episode in the intense battle between McLaren and Ferrari. Charles Leclerc had secured an impressive pole position on Saturday, leaving behind the McLaren duo of Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri. The Hungaroring circuit has always been a huge challenge for overtaking, so securing pole position was half the battle. Everything pointed to a spectacular race for the Monegasque driver, who started at the front and maintained his position into the first corner. However, something unexpected unfolded. Suddenly, the red car plummeted in competitiveness. And here I am not referring to a gradual deterioration in performance, but to a technical collapse that left Leclerc desperate on the radio. His statements were devastating. "This is extremely frustrating. We have lost all our competitiveness. You must listen to me. I would have found a different way to manage these problems. Now it's impossible to drive, impossible. It will be a miracle if we manage to finish on the podium." This explosive outburst from the Italian team's driver sparked a flurry of speculation behind the scenes. Several experts began to suspect that the team had intervened during pit stops to prevent excessive wear on the car's floor, known as the plank. For those unfamiliar with the term, the plank is an essential part located at the bottom of the car, and if it wears beyond the permitted parameters, disqualification is inevitable. The hypothesis was that they had manipulated the tire pressure to increase the height of the vehicle and prevent the floor from touching the pavement excessively. Apparently, the theory seemed plausible, don't you think? The fascinating thing is that this speculation gained traction on digital platforms and among expert commentators. Some drew parallels with historical events where teams were caught making questionable modifications during competitions. The memory of the category is extensive, and experienced enthusiasts recalled situations where teams were disqualified for technical irregularities. However, this is where Ralf Schumacher enters the narrative. The former driver and current Sky Sports Germany commentator decided to put an end to this speculation once and for all. During the Backstage Boxengasse program, he was emphatic. This hypothesis about tire pressure is completely unfounded, and the arguments he presented are quite persuasive, especially considering that they come from someone who has spent years driving in the category. As explained by Schumacher, if Ferrari had actually inflated the tires to raise the vehicle, the tires would have reacted extremely quickly to overheating. He clarified that it would have been necessary to inject so much air that the change in height would have been visually noticeable, but the tires would have overheated in just 3 or 4 laps. In addition, he recalled that at the start of the race, with a full tank of fuel, the car would naturally be in a lower position, consequently scraping the floor even more. The logic simply does not hold up. The former competitor also emphasized another key point. How would it be possible to measure something like this during a race? Telemetry data is complex, but such significant changes in tire pressure would be identified by FIA technical inspectors. It's not as if Ferrari could do this without anyone noticing. So, if there was no suspicious technical maneuver, what really happened to Ferrari in Hungary? Ralf Schumacher presents an alternative theory that has much more merit. He believes that the real problem for the Italian team lay with the hard tires, which were used for the first time that weekend alongside the new package of car upgrades. Ferrari had implemented a new rear axle and other aerodynamic modifications, and apparently something went completely off plan. The issue of hard tires is particularly intriguing because different compounds react completely differently depending on the characteristics of the vehicle. What works perfectly with medium or soft tires can be an absolute disaster with hard compounds. And when you add recent technical modifications to the equation, the risk of something going wrong increases exponentially. The former German driver pointed out that Leclerc began to experience pace issues precisely when he switched to hard compounds during the first pit stop. This suggests that the team did not have enough information about how the new aerodynamic package would behave with this type of tire. It's like trying to put together a jigsaw puzzle without all the pieces. The situation becomes even more intriguing when Schumacher mentions that Red Bull also struggled with Max Verstappen on the hard tires. This indicates that it wasn't just Ferrari that suffered that weekend, but that the weather conditions in Hungary, especially variable winds and temperature fluctuations, created a challenging scenario for several teams. The four-time champion also faced difficulties. Herein lies the key point of the narrative. While McLaren managed to find the perfect balance for the car in all conditions, Ferrari was completely disoriented as soon as the variables changed. Leclerc had to constantly battle with the car, overloading the tires and creating a devastating cascade effect. Once the tires overheated and lost grip, there was simply no chance of recovery. Ralf Schumacher also made a point of defending the integrity of Frédéric Vasseur, Ferrari's team principal. In his words, if there really was something suspicious or irregular going on, Vasseur would have spoken out publicly, as he is known for his transparency and frank communication with the press. The Frenchman has never been one to hide problems when asked about technical issues. The fact that the team has remained tight-lipped about specific details indicates that they simply did not fully understand what went wrong. This situation reveals a harsh reality of the top category of motorsport. Teams operate at extreme technical limits, where small adjustments have huge consequences. Ferrari bet on developments that were not properly evaluated in real racing conditions, resulting in a public failure that cost valuable points in the championship. In a year where every point counts at the end of the season, mistakes like this are costly. The reality is that conspiracy theories will always exist in the top category of motor racing. It is a sport where every tenth of a second is crucial, where millions of dollars are at stake, and where the pressure for results is extreme. Fans and experts seek elaborate explanations for problems that occasionally have simple solutions. But sometimes the most obvious explanation is the correct one. Ferrari failed in its technical strategy and paid the price on the track. Fans and experts naturally seek elaborate explanations for problems that occasionally have simple solutions. But sometimes the most obvious explanation is the correct one. Ferrari simply failed in its technical strategy and paid the price on the track. What becomes clear in this whole story is that Ralf Schumacher, with all his experience as a driver and respected analyst, decided to clarify the issue once and for all before this theory gained even more traction. And let's face it, who better to discuss the technical aspects of the category than someone who has been inside a cockpit at high speed, experiencing firsthand how small changes can drastically affect the behavior of a vehicle? So, after all this analysis, what is your opinion? Does Ralf Schumacher's technical explanation make sense to you? Or do you still have doubts about what really happened to Ferrari that Sunday in Hungary? One thing is indisputable. Episodes like this show us that in the highest category of motorsport, the line between genius and disaster is thinner than anyone imagines. And sometimes, as much as we want to find elaborate theories, the truth is much simpler than all the speculations we create to explain the inexplicable.